It's everywhere. I don't think I've heard that phrase since I pranked my sister that time with confetti. Hi, and welcome to Quilt Meets World, where we have adventures in piecing and joy. I'm Russ, coming into my sewing room. Y'all, pray for your friends with allergies in the South. We hit record pollen counts here in the Atlanta area. So, a little bit of back history. I started watching pollen counts many years ago because I kept getting sinus infections in the spring. My doctor and I essentially deduced that the pollen counts got up there, my windows were open, and they just got in there, gunked everything up, and caused everything to be upset, causing the infection. So, after a couple of those, I started every March watching the pollen counts, getting a neti bottle, and rinsing my sinuses daily so it doesn't happen again. And knock on wood, I haven't had a sinus infection since in the spring. So we think that that's really what it is because, Atlanta pollen is crazy. And I'm not allergic to the pollen here, but we are not okay. The record high pollen count prior to this past weekend was set back in 2012 with a count of 9,369. That number doesn't mean much on its own. It does sound high to people, but you don't have any scale. So, to put that into perspective, in most parts of the country, a pollen count of just 500 is considered extremely high. So that pollen count in 2012 was almost 19 times the extremely high level. So, yeah. We have seen articles of like Lebanon or something declaring states of emergency when their pollen counts hit like 2,000. And we laugh because our typical springs we hit between 4,000 and 6,000 on average. So, we're just laughing at Lebanon when they declare a state of emergency. This past weekend, we hit 14,801. That is almost 30 times extremely high. It was gross. Going outside meant you had all the pollen stabbies hitting my eyes, getting all over my face, in my mouth. Gross. Sunday, we managed to get down a little bit to 11,159, which again is still a ridiculous number because, 500 is extremely high. Monday, we got down to the 6,000s. Tuesday was in the 4,000s, so getting kind of back to normal for spring. But the people who are allergic are not okay. Like I said, I'm fine, I'm just dry-eyed. When I'm home, though, anytime I come back inside, taking Riley out and everything, I immediately just remove my clothing into the laundry room, wipe down what I can, go upstairs, and put a new set of clothes on because that keeps me from dragging pollen throughout the house, out of the sewing room, everything. But it's still, ridiculous. But enough with that ridiculous stuff. What did I do in here besides keep the pollen out as best I could? Saturday, for my 11Zs, I worked on sewing together my blocks for the other graduation quilt that I'm working on. As I said, there's 3 of them. 2 of them are currently out being long-armed. Actually, I think they're done being long-armed. They're about to be shipped here. More about that in a minute. And then the third one will fit on my long arm. So, I had a little bit of a reprieve to finish it. So, I spent the time on my live getting the blocks sewn together with the sashing into rows. And I gave a few tips. It's kind of how I do my blocks, but on a bigger scale. And it was just basically because I didn't want to get up and down to the design wall, design bed, in order to, get things done. If I'm on live, I want to make sure I have everything ready for y'all. So I gave a whole bunch of tips. It went together very easy because I made sure all my blocks were just about right with size. They were all, within my tolerances. And then, putting sashing on. And my big trick that I did is instead of doing a long sashing strip for my horizontals, I put cornerstones in there because the cornerstones give you something to constantly line up with. It's more forgiving because you have something to line up with. And it also means you're not doing all of this extra forethought to try to get things to line up vertically because you have your cornerstones to help you out. So if you're doing a quilt that has sashing and you get a little concerned, add some cornerstones. I use the same fabric that's going to be the binding, so it's a nice way to bring your binding fabric into the center of the quilt, just so that, even though you have it potentially throughout your quilt somewhere, it gives your eyes something to look at. And you're not sitting there saying, it's a little bit uneven. After I finished the live, I joined my friend Steven of The Idiot Quilter on his pop-up sew day. His pop-up sew days are always a lot of fun, and I managed to get the remainder of the quilt center sewn together. And that's as far as I was able to go because I mathed wrong. The pattern, which is an awesome fat quarter shop pattern, it is written properly, perfectly, no issues. But Russ, being the idiot he is, when I took the fabric requirements, I said, okay, I'm going to do the sashing in the same color as the background of the blocks, but I want to do the border in a different color. What I did not take into account is in order to do that and make it look right, I need an inner border of the background so it is properly framed. And I didn't have the fabric for that. So I had to go online and order it because my local quilt shop does not carry that shade of grunge. And I placed the order, found out, they had it in stock. It's on its way to me. But yeah, I got to stop doing bad math because it's biting me. And luckily, this isn't a huge deadline, but it's there. The good thing, though, is a lot of the projects that I have planned later this year, the math has already been done, so I don't even have to think about it. It's just when I try to modify something, try to make it my own, I fiddle just a little wrong. Sunday was another fun day. I spent it live here on my channel with a few friends as we worked on the March block of the Kona 2025 Block of the Month. So for anybody who doesn't know, Kona is doing a Block of the Month this year, and I'm doing it through my local quilt shop, and I have a handful of friends who either are doing it through the same local quilt shop or bought the kit so that they can do the Block of the Month on their own with us. So we had a blast chit-chatting and getting our blocks done. This is my block. I am so happy with it. It came out really awesome. It was just fun putting it together. Got all my seams to nest where I wanted to, and really happy with the way it came out. So I have that ready for when it's time to go show the block and get my next block, and that is coming up soon. So very excited. Monday was hilarious. At lunch, I was talking to a coworker bestie about the quilt math hard thing that I told you about a few minutes ago. And I was telling him everything, and I was like, and I ran out of fabric. And he said, how is that even possible? And I'm just looking at him for a second, and at that point, I realized we were talking about two different out of fabrics. So I had to explain to him that I meant that I ran out of fabric for the project, not in general, because there's no way it's possible for me to run out of fabric ever. I don't care if I just am like stuck in here for the next 932,000 days. I have enough fabric. He was worried that the world was ending or something, so that was a fun little chuckle that I had. Tuesday was haircut day, and that's why I'm looking exceptionally snazzy. But I also got something on Tuesday. I am now a basic white girl. Okay, hear me out. I'm not dissing any of y'all who have one, but I now have one. When all that Stanley craze started, whenever it did, I was just like, really? Seriously? They're just cups. I have my water cup that works just fine, and it keeps things cold for me, and I'm happy with this. I've had this thing for, oh, gee, probably about 20 years almost. But, back when the whole craze was going on, I was like, okay, let me see these colors that they have. And I said to my coworker, I was like, if they had this color, but the logo wasn't this other hideous color, I would probably be interested. Last week, one of the deal sites that I watch had hydration tools on sale, and for some reason I looked and I found the color. And the logo isn't a hideous color. Here it is. It is just gorgeous. I am happy. I mean, I could clunk myself upside the head and be knocked out for like 3 days, but this is going to be fun. I haven't figured out. I think this was a scratch and dent stuff, maybe, because there's a couple almost scratches on it, but I don't think I care about that, or maybe they'll just buff out. I'm just checking this. They're kind of buffing out, so maybe it was just packaging. Nope, that's definitely a scratch, but I don't care. It's pretty. It has my hydration in it, and yeah, I'm going to have fun. Apparently, it's spill resistant, which has been a problem because I've kind of tipped this a couple times, but don't know if I'm going to use that as my work hydration. I'm probably going to continue to keep this as my work hydration and maybe keep this as home hydration. We'll figure it out. Based on the things of people breaking into cars and stuff, probably will not keep this, stored in my car because I don't need people breaking in and stealing my pretty Stanley because it's my Stanley. I also bought a new microphone this week. So I got comments 2 weeks ago saying that there was a couple times where my voice kind of knocked out, which I had that happen a couple years ago, and it was the microphone issue. And I found out that the microphones in my webcam work fine, so I was like, I'll just use those. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, I heard a couple people say, it kind of knocked out a couple times. Last week, I got a message saying, hey, it happened. So that time, I'm like, let me out, listen. So I watched my video. I do not normally watch my video because I'm not interesting to myself. It's more of that whole, if you hear yourself on a recording and stuff, you sound wrong. even though that's really what people say that you sound like and it's accurate. So, yeah, I feel sorry for y'all listening, but that's besides the point. I listened and I was like, it does not make sense when this cut out because it cut out at just strange, weird places. I don't have any filters on my app, so it wasn't trying to even filter out background noise or anything. So I did not have any idea. And then I did a test, and I found out that the microphone that was set up to record my voice was not the microphone in this camera. It's the microphone in this camera. So it was upset because I was talking forward and the microphone is like 30 degrees away from me. Um, I put it in my list immediately last week to say, hey, make sure this camera is the one that is recording audio. So I have done that. But on Friday, I think, yeah, it was Friday, same deal site that I got this ordered from, had microphone on sale, and I ordered one, and I was like, okay, it'll come in like 2 weeks, whenever. It came the next day, which I was not expecting because, again, it said I was going to get it, by the end of the first week in April. So I got it. I haven't opened it yet. I don't know if I can use it for all my stuff. I may need to buy a microphone boom arm. We'll figure out what it's going to be. But I do have a new microphone that is pretty nice according to the reviews. And we will see when I get it set up how it works. I'm trying to work on slowly upgrading some of my stuff. I want to get better cameras and everything in here, but I think sound is the first thing that needs to be resolved because you know got to get the words out. Camera I think is probably going to be next because I haven't been able to get the color correction on that camera working exactly right, but I'm working on it, so bear with me just a little bit. So yeah, that was a week. Hopefully the pollen calms down some in the next few days and we can stop feeling gunky. I have plans for this week, but it all depends on other things. Well, some things do. I had said earlier that I ordered the needed fabric for the graduation quilt, so that should arrive Friday, I think. Based on the shipment notification I saw, it should. If it does, I think I'm going to be working on orders this weekend so I can get that quilt top done and get it ready to get put on the long arm. Whether or not the fabric arrives, I'll have to do something on my live. And if it comes, I may be doing the live with the fabric. If it does and I don't feel like doing it, I'll have to figure out another project. I've got plenty of stuff that is in my backlog that I need to start catching up on now that those graduation quilts are done before I have to start focusing on other graduation quilts. But yeah, I've got stuff. I've got basically a list of 3 things that I probably will be working on Saturday, and we will probably find out Friday what I'll be working on. Besides that, I've been told, as I mentioned earlier, that the bigger graduation quilts are being popped into UPS today, which means they will be here in a few days. I think UPS is going to say it's like 3 days shipment. So maybe it'll be here Saturday, maybe it'll be here Monday. Just basically in time that I can trim it up if it hasn't been trimmed and start working on the binding. So I need to get the binding strips made, sewn, and prepped so that I can run them through my machine and have them ready again, because show and tell is scheduled for these to be the first weekend in May. And yeah, I'm going to have fun showing off 3 big giant quilts. Maybe 4 if I get a little motivated. We'll see. But anywho, I got to get those done. So that's going to be my plans this weekend. So I think that's going to be about it for today. Sharing my weekly shenanigans is definitely one of the highlights I have each week. If you wouldn't mind making the YouTube algorithm happy, that would rock. You can do things such as liking and sharing this video, commenting below, or even hiding in your sewing room away from the pollen. I think that's the best way to duck and cover from it. Subscribing to my channel is free and a wonderful way of letting YouTube know that you like my shenanigans. Ringing the bell icon next to the subscribe button gets you notified when I go live on Saturday mornings and when I upload any other videos throughout the week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and an awesome week. Until next time, stay happy and remember, always measure your life in love.